We need to be as prompt as the Englishmen and as the Swiss are. Sophia, everything okay with our screen?
We are good to go.
Good to go. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you're tuning in from, which time zone in the world. This is Michael Virardi, and I will be your host for today for our webinar titled, How Can You Maintain Your Well-Being and Your Productivity During Challenging Times? Sophia, I have my camera on, right?
Yes, you do.
Excellent. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Virardi. I'm a business consultant active in 20 countries. I lecture on positive leadership, culture enhancement. And when it comes to culture enhancement, my philosophy is that a company cannot be stronger than its weakest department, and a department cannot be stronger than its weakest link. So I work bottom up. I help individuals raise their game through mentorship and coaching and through running psychometric testing. And those individuals help their department. We work together in facilitation sessions and seminars so the department can help the company enhance its culture, a culture of collaboration and communication, or a culture of customer experience. Last but not least, I'm a public speaking coach to C-level executives. That is, I help them write their speeches and deliver them in a way that is succinct and powerful and in a way that resonates with their audience, irrespective of size. Just a few things about today's webinar. It's going to be divided into two parts. The first part will run for approximately 40 minutes, and it's going to be on our topic. And the second part is I'm going to be answering your questions and answers. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box, and that's private. And if you want to chat, because I'm going to make it very interactive, please drop it into the chat where everyone can see your replies. Let me say that you can only see me, I cannot see you, and you cannot see each other. And you're all on mute because we have a lot of people on, and we are live streaming both on Facebook Live and on Zoom. A big shout out to my associate, Sofia Shilimindri, who's based in Lausanne, Switzerland, and she has been very, very kind to help me with this webinar. So thank you very much, Sophia, and it's great to have you on. So let's start with our objectives of the day. Objective number one is how to nurture a growth mindset perspective during challenging times. It is important to adopt a perspective, a mindset perspective that will help us cope during difficult times. Our goal number two, which we will complete in the 40 minutes as said earlier, is how to maintain our well-being and productivity during challenging times. So it's mindset, well-being, and last but not least, productivity. And as a thank you to all of you for turning up, one lucky winner will win the Stand Up, Stand Out online course, which is on public speaking, which I created last year at this time in May, and it has been very well received by organizations, both globally and locally. They bought licenses for their people, or entrepreneurs and solopreneurs who have bought licenses for themselves. The Stand Up, Stand Out is based on the 3S philosophy, which is S for story. Not every speech is structured in the form of a story, but every great speech is structured in the form of a story. And here you will learn how to create speeches and how to bring those stories up that will make them interesting. The second S is S for slides. How to create powerful slides that accompany your stories or that accompany your presentations. And last but not least, the third S, which is your stage presence. It's not only what you say verbally, but it's also the confidence that you exude with your body language. So one lucky winner will I will tell you how you can win it in the second part when we go to your Q&A. So let's start by getting a pulse of the audience. So I would like you to go into Zoom chat, which you are already there, and I would like to ask you two questions. The first question is very simple. How are you feeling today? And let me see your replies. How are you feeling today? Great, fantastic, good, great. Pavona, very well. Savas Kolos, great. Feeling motivated. Julia Babayorgiou, excellent, superb. All is well, looking forward to it. Great and motivated, feeling well, unbelievable. Guys, super, Vasilia, thank you. Ronnie is feeling great and very productive, really good and motivated. Wow, what a crowd. Anybody feeling anything else? Fanos, Gozagos, Fanos, hungry. Okay, Julian, we'll finish it early. Real great, wunderbar. Grigoris Xenikakis. Now I know who said wunderbar the first time around. Hello from Sweden, feeling fantastic. Excellent. Excited, Mrs. Theophanos. Let's see a few more replies before I ask you the second question. For those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, you can drop your comments in the comments below our video, our live video. I'm going to get to them later on. Okay, let's go to our second question. Still use the Zoom chat. And my question is the following. What is the biggest challenge that you are facing today? What is the biggest challenge that you're facing today? Take your time to reply. What is the biggest challenge that you're facing today? Working remotely, the unknown future, very well said. Social distance, Sabastrijas, uncertainty, Kratinos, thank you. Human interaction, managing uncertainty, staying positive and proactive, that's very important, the two P's, to get teams motivated, involved in unknown, uncertain times, making sure that our staff stay safe, managing external toxicity, and sometimes it's internal toxicity as well, returning to the new normality, or very nice, Chris Poramidis, to catch up with all deadlines. I think you should have had time to catch up with the deadlines. Adapting to the challenging times in business, Nicolas Valercos, true. We're going to deal with most of what you're saying here. So if I can put them in groups, so working remotely, trying to adapt to a new reality, staying productive, and catching up with either deadlines or anything else. Very good. So guys, very good, and thank you very much for your replies. Let's get back to our webinar. And so, second, because we had something. Sophia, I had my screen. Let me share my screen again.
Please share your screen again, yes.
Yes, thank you. Can everyone see the screen now?
Yes, we can.
Great.
See.
So people have asked me, Michael, how come you delayed in coming up with a webinar? Why didn't you come with a webinar earlier? I'll give you the answer in just a while, and it will come in 3 simple words. But let me say something. If I exclude the HIV pandemic, which peaked from 2005 until 2012, which had 36 million death toll, the last pandemic that we had was in 1968, and that was the flu pandemic with 1 million death toll. If I can make a wild guess, most of us were not alive at that time, or if we were, and just for the record, I wasn't, we're very young to remember, or we have to ask our parents on how we dealt with it. So I'm as much of an expert as you are when it comes to pandemics, and I waited, first and foremost, to observe what's happening. I needed to see how my personal and professional life has changed. After I observed, I needed to experiment, see what's working and what's not working, apply the things that were working, and stop doing the things that were not working. And hence, the birth of this particular webinar, which we're about to go into. The circle you now see on your screen, it's the sign for Zen, or as it's otherwise known, and I'm sure most of you must have recognized it by now, as Enzo. And this sign and the Zen philosophy signifies the fact that Zen is looking for the meaning of life, for a complete life, the meaning of life. But as we have seen from our replies, which varied, people give the same exact event a different meaning. Some people consider it to be great, some people consider it to be bad, and it all depends on our experiences. on the stimuli that affect us, and last but not least, on our perspective, how we view things. And according to a prominent psychologist, Dr. Carol Dweck, who's an author of a great book called Mindset, people are divided into two types: the fixed mindset person and the growth mindset person. The fixed mindset person is a person who considers everything a disappointment. It is the person who feels that the cards that they were dealt in life are the cards that they need to use through their entire life. Nothing will change. This is the person who, in a lockdown, partial or complete, they feel miserable. They feel pessimistic. They feel that whatever they do, it is to no avail. The growth-minded person, in contrast, is the person that can maintain their perspective, but also change their perspective irrespective of times, irrespective of the different stimuli that affect his or her life. The growth mindset person, it is a person that it's not a fanatic. And as we know, a fanatic is somebody who cannot change the subject and they cannot change their minds. What's the difference between the two? Mainly, it comes down to one single thing, and that's their response. In 2008, I talked about a formula which is the following: E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. If you want to change your outcomes in life, you have two choices. You can either blame the event, it's the pandemic's fault, it's my husband's fault, it's my wife's fault, it's my dog's fault, it's my child's fault, or you can change your response towards the event, thus increasing the likelihood of changing your outcome into a more positive outcome. Let me give you a personal example. During the lockdown, I could have had a fixed mindset, but I chose to have a growth mindset. I immediately enrolled in masterclass.com. For those of you who do not know what masterclass.com is, it is a university on the cloud where the most prominent professionals from around the globe come together to share their passions, to share their tricks, to share their skills. You get people from Serena Williams in tennis, to the best chess player in the world, Garry Kasparov. You get people from Gordon Ramsay and many, many more. And I chose to invest my time whilst I was at home to learning a few things. And I took a few classes, but the most important class, the first class that I took, was with this gentleman here. His name is Chris Voss, and he's considered to be the leading authority when it comes to negotiations. He's amongst the top 3 negotiators in the world. He was a former FBI negotiator. And the reason I took his class was twofold. First and foremost, because a customer of mine just before COVID-19 asked me to run workshops on negotiations, which we never ran because of COVID. So I said, why not start preparing today so I can be ready tomorrow? And the second most important reason is because I have a feeling that going forward, and this pandemic will be over sooner than later, it will be a very competitive battlefield out there. I believe that companies will drop prices, which I'm not an ardent supporter of. I'm not an ardent supporter of dropping your price. Salespeople will become more conscientious. If they were visiting 6 people per day, I believe they will up their performance and visit 12 just to cover their lost ground. And I believe medium to long term, or even short term, marketing budgets will increase because it will be very competitive. So I took this class to enhance my negotiation skills and get ready for tomorrow. Let me show you a small trailer. It's a 40-second trailer from Chris Voss's class, just to see what they teach there.
Negotiation. When you cross the street is a negotiation. Getting your coffee at Starbucks is a negotiation. You're probably in 3 to 7 negotiations every single day. Your life could be in a completely different place just by improving how you negotiate.
Negotiators are working around the clock. The deadline for execution is passed.
With us now to help break down the investigation, FBI Special Agent Hostage Negotiator Christopher Voss.
My role as a hostage negotiator was to connect authentically with the victim, the victim's family, and with the hostage taker. Everybody really deserves to have somebody hear what they have to say.
Thank you, Chris. Guys, you just got a taste of what's a masterclass. That's a trailer from a masterclass. And that's where I chose to invest my time and have a growth mindset in going forward. So my question to all of you is the following, and you can drop your reply in the chat below, or those of you who are watching us on Facebook Live, you can drop it below the video. My question is, what's one skill you would like to learn today? What's the one skill you would like to learn today that can benefit you tomorrow? What's the one skill you can learn today that can benefit you for the second half of 2020 or for the second half of the 21st century? What's the one skill? If you want to write more than one skills, please go ahead. Whilst you're writing your skills, and I'm going to get to them later on, think, what are the skills that can benefit you both personally and professionally? This is not just to type into the box. This is also a promise to yourself. What's the one skill that you can learn today that can benefit you tomorrow? For example, with my wife, Christine, we started cooking. We took one of the master classes, we learned a few things more, and we started cooking. Some things turned out very well. Some things didn't turn out so well, but at the end of the day, we had a sweet result. And we also had a realization. The realization, I'm saying a realization because we knew that from before, but we had a realization. It doesn't cost much to cook at home. It also brings you together with your partner, but it doesn't cost much. And during the lockdown, and we're still in a lockdown, if you ask me, we took delivery from a good, reasonable chain of restaurants, and we found it to be expensive. And I remember telling Christine, what if restaurateurs drop their prices just a bit, especially for these times? And lo and behold, I read a Harvard Business Review article saying that smart restaurateurs should drop their prices by 15%. That was the mark, 15%. They can go up to 20, but 15%. Why? Because the quality of the food is not the same coming out of the oven and going onto the restaurant table, or coming out of the oven and coming onto your table. Secondly, if you would order delivery once every 30 days, if the price is a bit lower, you might order twice or 3 times every 30 days. And if they do have business, and they have more business as restaurateurs, they can employ their own staff and turn them from waiters to waiters on wheels, where they can get either rent bikes, use their own bikes or cars, and deliver the food so they can stay employed. So in other words, avoiding, or at least partially avoiding, what happened in the United States, where we have 30 million unemployed people. But my dear friends, there are things keeping people back from embracing a growth mindset perspective. And according to Inc. magazine, there are 5 things that keep people back from embracing a growth mindset perspective. First of all is the fear of failure. What if I fail? Or let me say it a bit more positive. What if I succeed? What if I don't succeed? Stress. You're getting overwhelmed. There is cortisol coming into your veins. And as we know, it's not a good hormone to have in your veins for a long time. Judgment. And I'm not talking so much about judgment from the guy in the US or from the girl in China. It's what will our closest circle say if I fail? What will the people closest to me say if I fail? And this is one of the main reasons that keeps people back. The safety net, or as it otherwise is known as the comfort zone. We remain bound in our comfort zone. We feel comfortable there. And last but not least, the status quo. Why change? The model has been working up until now. And tomorrow we might go back, as one of the comments was, when are we going back to normalcy? We might go back to normalcy. Yes, but we might not go back to normalcy. And probably we won't 100%. So if you don't start changing or experimenting, observing, experimenting and applying, you might be out of a career, or you might be out of a job, or you might be out of, or your company might go bust. because there is a fear of trying new things. And if I can put a humorous tone here, there might be a sixth reason, the coronavirus, that is keeping us locked in, locked up, or locked down. The word lock on its own is a fixed mindset perspective. So what can you do? Well, my friends, I would say that if you do have a fixed mindset perspective, you're always going to lose out on your dreams. And I want to give two examples. What's the impact from a fixed mindset perspective on an individual level, and what's the impact from a fixed mindset perspective on a company level? On an individual level, you remain bound in your comfort zone where you feel safe and you feel in control. You might venture out on your fear zone, but you'll probably find excuses, lack the confidence, and be affected by the opinions of others. And we're talking about our closest circle, as I said earlier, and go back into your comfort zone. But where I take my hat off to all of you is because you've came here and you're in your learning zone now. You want to acquire new skills. You want to deal with challenges. You want to extend your comfort zone. And people who want to do that, they can move on to their growth zone, where they can set new goals, where they can find new purposes, or they can build on the existing purpose. Because you can quarantine people, but you cannot quarantine dreams. So on an individual level, we need to move away from a fixed mindset perspective and onto a growth mindset perspective, because it equates with moving away from comfort zone to a growth zone. And here is a documentary that I highly recommend all of you to watch. It was referred to me by my very good friend Stavros Galariotis, and a shout out to him and thank you very much. It's called Finding Joe. And this documentary is all about moving out of your comfort zone. It is all about dealing with your fears. As they say inside the documentary, it's about slaying those demons, those fears. And this is a documentary of 1 hour and 20 minutes with star appearance by Robin Sharma, by the great Robin Sharma, by Sir Ken Robinson, who had the most popular TED speech in the history of the world, and many, many others. Let me show you a short little trailer of 90 seconds. And I urge you to watch this documentary. Let's go.
Slaying the dragon, to me, is the most interesting. It's the final moment. It's the time when you are faced with the scariest thing you've been faced with, and you get to take everything you've learned and knock this guy out.
If you were to ask me, what's the one thing that keeps people from their mountaintops? What's the one thing that keeps people small rather than allowing them to present their genius to the world? It's their fears, or as Joseph Campbell says, it's their dragons.
Fear is anything that gets in you. It's a beast, it's a monster.
Fear is, what we face every day. We fear that we're going to be rejected, that we're going to be, no one's going to return our phone call, that no one's going to like what we made or what we did or what we said.
Fear that is unfaced has a tendency to creep. It moves through your experiences. It starts to toxify your perceptions. You become scared.
Love is what we're born with, and fear is what we learn. And I think there's a great truth in that.
I remember we're born with. Fear is what we learn. Or according to Robin Sharma, that's what keeps people small. So you can choose to define fear as forget everything and run, or you can choose to define fear as face everything and rise. I faced everything, and we're rising together with Sofia Shilimindri because this webinar didn't work out the first time, and I could have stopped everything and say that I cannot make it, but we did make it, and we came through for the time being. So face everything and rise. And the same holds true with companies. What's keeping them in a fixed mindset perspective is fear of the unknown. or enjoying the success of the status quo and not moving forward. In terms of companies and organizations, here is the result. Most of these companies you see here are not with us today. And some of these which are here, they have shrunk a lot. Let me take, for example, Nokia. Just 10 years ago, it was worth $700 billion US dollars. And then it was bought by Microsoft for $70 billion US dollars, and it was sold by Microsoft for $7 billion US dollars. And this is all because they didn't cannibalize their own products. They knew what they should do. They knew what they should have done, but they stuck in their ways. They stuck in the status quo, in their comfort zone, not venturing out to the learning zone and the growth zone. From all these companies, the only company that is successful today is IBM, where in the 90s, IBM failed to move from hardware to software, and it really risked going under. But it changed management, and by changing management, what have we set up to now? They changed perspective. And by changing perspective, they move from a fixed mindset perspective to a growth mindset perspective, and hence the reason that they're doing well today. And I have to give a great shout out to another company, PwC, which months before the coronavirus have implemented a new way of working, the flexi working. People are working from home. And as research has shown, if I'm not mistaken, from Professor Bloom from Stanford University, where he took a company in China with 16,000 employees, travel agency, and they divided them into teams and groups. They've seen that the ones working from home were much more productive. The same with PwC. My friend Bambos Anastasiou, who I haven't seen for years, came from Boston to Cyprus. He's working here now, and his wife works at PwC in Nicosia. We're based in Limassol. She rarely travels to Nicosia, only for meetings with the management and with her customers. So it's a completely different mentality, and you shouldn't wait for challenging times to instigate change. But you should start thinking, what's going to be the new reality of tomorrow? What should we do today in order to prepare for tomorrow? Another bright example, local example, is Foodie and Alpha Mega hypermarkets. Foodie's drivers, because most restaurants closed down at the beginning of COVID and the lockdown, they were idle. So they have come into an agreement with Alpha Mega hypermarkets. I believe they were the first to do so, to deliver food instead from restaurants to households, from supermarkets to households, from Alpha Mega to our household. And depending on the zone you were in, you would pay approximately 5 to 7 euros, and they would deliver it. So it's a win-win for both. They thought out of the box, and they immediately went into a growth mindset perspective. So nurturing a growth mindset perspective is step number one. It will help you during challenging times. It will help you during prosperous times. And if you do that, then we move on to our second goal of the day, which is how to maintain well-being and productivity during challenging times. But let us first define what productivity is today. For me, productivity today is not about selling. It is about serving. The world is on fire. If your house was on fire, maybe you would speak to a salesperson who's selling fire extinguishers, but you wouldn't speak to anyone else. You wouldn't listen to anyone else. So today, it's not about selling. It's about serving. Your customers are looking for answers. You came onto this webinar probably looking for answers. It's about serving. It's not about promoting products. And here I need to say congratulations to some companies who have led the way both internationally and also nationally in serving. There are many more. I chose 3 examples. Company number 1 is Braskem. Braskem is an amazing company that manufactures masks, wipes, and gowns for nurseries. And 40 employees from Braskem, when COVID started in the US, stayed in-house, inside the factory, for 28 consecutive days. They were working 12-hour shifts to bring out the goods that will help the society at large, that will help the hospitals. as you can see here, their relatives were passing by just to say hello, and they were waving. This is Joe Boyce, their shift supervisor, who was very proud of his team. And he said something really funny, but it's also true. We didn't have to stand 6 feet away from someone, and we didn't have to wear a mask because we remained locked inside. So that's a growth mentality, and a mentality that serves. Productivity with serving. They're serving today. Probably they will be selling tomorrow. Other bright, shining examples of companies that have served in one way or another was Amazon, where when they offered freebies for kids, they opened it for a month and maybe they will continue it. And they were offering children's stories and other things for free for children, which keeps kids occupied and gives us parents peace of mind. So well done, Amazon. Another example on a national scale is a startup which started 13 months ago, which is Nomad Bread and Coffee. Nomad is a place where I enjoy my coffee, and this particular company started because of COVID-19, and because their model was influenced, they hired more drivers, they got more bikes in, and they started delivering and changed their model, in a way changed their model because they were doing it from before. But if you call them and ask them for 1 mug of coffee, they will smile on the phone and they're very happy to do so. And your coffee is delivered with a motivational message. Here's the one that I got very recently. Find a way to thrive when others try to survive. Fredo Espresso. So it's not only, I'm not only eager to receive my coffee, I'm also eager to read the message of the day. So productivity today, my dear friends, and you have to think, how can you serve better your society, your internal and your external customers if you want to sell tomorrow? And productivity is also, of course, has to do with technology. And these are the tools, some of the tools that organizations that have remote workers should adopt and adapt to, but also entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, people who have 1 or 2 people working for them. The first icon and the third icon is my virtual conference table. The Zoom is also the medium in which this webinar is presented to you today. So I go with my team in, we chat, we exchange ideas, we can see each other, we can record the meeting as this video is recorded for showing it later on, so you can capture those ideas. And this is our virtual conference table. The last icon is Trello. That's a project management application. And this is where, on Trello, this is where we designed together with my associate, as you can see here, Nicolas Valerkos, this webinar. We joined forces, we exchanged ideas through Trello and through Zoom meetings. And this webinar was brought to you because of Trello, and mainly because of Trello and exchange of ideas, because we were both working remotely. We weren't allowed to get out of our houses and meet. The second icon is Microsoft Teams. And I have to say that Microsoft has managed to see what's coming down the line. And I read a recent article that it had 16 million users. It's a collaborative and communication tool. It does what all the other 3 do together. It had 16 million users until 2 weeks ago. Today it has 32 million users. So productivity is also about understanding which tools to use and how to use them with your team. And I want to give some tips to managers, people who are managing remote teams anywhere in the world. My tips are the following, and those managers that have a growth mindset mentality. Shift from working hours to outcomes. Don't take a timer and time your team how long they're working and if they're working within the time frame that they should be working. Look at outcomes. But be sure that you have clear timelines and deadlines. And as my friend Nicolas Valerkos says, you have dependencies. Who depends on whom to deliver in order for the other person to move forward? Then you have to define the team's new norms and communication methods. Tell them on which of these applications will you be working on, and show them exactly how to make best use of those applications. If you don't know, go to linkedinlearning.com and learn it. There is a great online university. Take courses from Udemy and you can learn it. Listen to your people, because each and every household is unique. Each and every household is fighting their own battle. There might be a professional might have a child bound on a wheelchair. It might be a single mother working with 3 children, or a single father working with 2 children inside the house. So listen to your team. Help them as much as you can. Help them create routines. As Nicolas Valercos pinpointed, when he goes into his office, into his room, and the door closes, that's office hours. When the door opens, he becomes a dad once again. And have certain routines. For example, I take my coffee, then I start working on my to-dos. Help your team create their routines. And last but not least, be understanding of each and every situation, but also be firm, because there might be a short minority who would like to take advantage of this. So, in recapping, my dear friends, and then we go to your Q&A, adopt a growth mindset perspective. Given a choice between fixed mindset and growth mindset, I would always opt for a growth mindset, because it gives you more options, it gives you more perspective. And let me read something out from an excerpt from Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. The fixed mindset makes you concerned with how you will be judged. The growth mindset makes you concerned with improving. Judged versus improving. Given a choice between the two, improve. Move from selling to serving. Stop selling in today's challenging world. Start serving. Start serving your society. Start serving your employees. Start serving your family. And the companies and the individuals who serve today, who help people find answers today, are the ones who will have a more likelihood of selling tomorrow. And last but not least, set your priorities right. For some of us, including myself, family might be priority number 1. For some others, priority number 1 might be business. And for some others, it might be something completely else. Let me read an excerpt from one of the books that I've recently finished reading. It's called How to Win an Argument by Cicero. And this is Socrates, a great philosopher, talking to Xenophon and his wife Aspasia. Please tell me, Madam Aspasia, if your neighbor should have finer gold jewelry than you have, would you prefer hers or your own? Hers, Aspasia replied. What if she should have clothing and other feminine accessories that are more expensive than what you have? Would you prefer yours or hers? Hers, she replied. Well then, Socrates says, what if she should have a better husband than you have? Would you prefer yours or hers? At this, Aspasia blushed. My dear friends, don't wish to be somebody else. Don't wish that the times were different. Just wish and act in adopting a growth mindset perspective, a serving perspective, and at the end of the day, you will survive during challenging times and you will thrive during prosperous times. Thank you very much. Sophia?
Okay, we have already one question in the Q&A. I would like to urge everybody on Zoom to post their questions in the Q&A box. And also those that are watching us from Facebook, feel free to put your question in the comments and I will read it out loud. So the first question we have is from Sadia Shah. And he's asking,
thank you, Sadia. Yes.
Who would the consumer expect businesses to drop prices or be provided a reason on why prices doesn't need to be dropped?
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat the question, please? Would the consumer
expect businesses to drop prices?
Yes.
Or be provided a reason on why prices doesn't need to be dropped. Service versus growth.
Okay, very good. Sadia, great question. First and foremost, let me say that price is just one parameter. It's value that we should be talking about. If you provide value, then price is a mere parameter. I remember I was once at Garland. Garland manufactures great catering equipment in Canada. And I was there with Virardi, our company, our family company. And there was a gentleman there from Garland lecturing and telling us about his equipment. And there were 30 of us, mainly chefs. And somebody asked the Garland representative, "Excuse me, sir, how much does that particular machine cost?" And the Garland representative said, "It's not how much it costs, it's how much it makes." If I can prove to you, he went on to say, that this makes 1,100,000 within a year, and you have the capital to pay 1 million today, and you will make with the 100,000 over and above within a year, and I can prove it to you, then you will buy it. So Sadia, it's not how much it costs, it's how much it makes. You need to provide value. If you provide enough value, then you can maintain your price. If you cannot, then you have to drop your price. And if you drop your price, just always know that the Chinese will always be winning.
Okay, great. We have another question from Konstantinos Vasiliou asking, how can we address clients' lower budget?
How can we address clients' lower budget? Create another product. For example, when people come to the Stand Up, Stand Out course, they can buy the gold license or they can buy the platinum license. The gold license is $197. The platinum license, which includes an hour consulting with me, is $397. It's the exact same product, but we added a feature. So we have two categories of prices. Going back to our family business, we have ovens, Convortherm from Germany, which are 30 to 40% higher than the Mareno combi steamers. So always provide an alternative. If you cannot provide an alternative, then you have to stick with your price and defend your price fiercely, not with arguments, but with value or value arguments.
Great. We have another question from Konstantinos Konstantinou. How this change will affect job satisfaction?
Meaning this change, Sophia, COVID-19?
I guess this is what he means, yeah.
I think people might be more satisfied. People are working from home. Professor Bloom, and I can drop the research that Professor Bloom at Stanford University has done. I believe that it can help companies, individuals. First of all, companies might cut down on their costs. They might not need to rent a whole tower to host all of us together in there. Secondly, people can lead a work-life balance if they can concentrate at home, of course, and if they follow certain routines. And I believe it gives us alternatives. So adopting a growth mindset, I would see how we can adopt and adapt to the new technologies, make them our ally and not our foe.
So we have another relevant question about growth mindset from Pavlos Pieroudis.
Hello, Pavlos.
He says, great webinar, thank you. Does adopting a growth mindset mean taking more risks and challenges? Can you have a growth mindset while being cautious?
Excellent question. In Dr. Carl Dweck's book, it is clear that if you have a growth mindset perspective, you won't have it necessarily forever. You might have a growth mindset perspective in your personal life and a fixed mindset perspective in your professional life. You might have a growth mindset in the morning and a fixed mindset in the afternoon. It's not about being cautious or not. You can be cautious. Of course you can. But it's about learning how to make it part of your life. Let me give you an example that helped me tremendously. And it comes down all the credit to Dr. Carl Dweck and her associates. My son Rolandos is a great football player, an amazing talent. That's my opinion. And his coach told me that. I mean, this kid is 1 in 100. If I haven't read Dr. Carl Dweck's book, And I would be eager to tell him, Rolandos, you are a great player. Your coach said that you're 1 in 100 and well done. But this will cause my son eventually, according to Dr. Carl Dweck, to get into a fixed mindset perspective, because he will not want to disappoint me. If you go to your child and say, you're excellent in maths, well done, one of the best students we've seen up to now, and then you ask them to go into a competition, a math competition, they might be reluctant because they don't want to disappoint their parents. So what I'm saying is, growth mindset perspective is not about something that you gain and that's it. You have to work towards it. I highly recommend to read the book.
Okay, we have many questions coming. I will ask you the next one from Mr. Yusuf FD. He's asking how we manage our stress in COVID-19.
How we manage our stress in COVID-19? Great question. First and foremost, I'll say that each person is completely unique and different, and there are various types of stresses. For example, I'm a public speaker, and I always have stress. And I love having stress. As long as it doesn't paralyze me, it keeps me alert. So make stress your ally and think about it. And I say this in my public speaking classes. I also say this in Stand Up, Stand Out. Feeling anxious about an event and being scared, it's exactly the same symptoms. Your heart is pacing, your palms are getting sweaty, and you're thinking into the future. Even Olympic athletes, people who have won races, when they were asked, how did you feel? They said, I felt excited after they won the race. Excitement and fear has the exact same symptoms. Heart pacing, palm sweating, and thinking to the future. So redefine your fear. Instead of forget everything and run, try. Face everything and rise. Try it. What's wrong? What might go wrong? You might fail. We failed at our first attempt on this webinar. What did I learn? I learned that I have many friends that love me. What did I learn? I learned that most of you provided the motivation that I needed. I learned that I found a friend in Sofia Shilimintri who rose up and helped me deliver this webinar. I also learned the technology. So stress is not your enemy. Stress can be your friend as long as it doesn't paralyze you.
Okay, we have two questions about handling the employees during this crisis. I want to address first the question from Konstantinos Koufakis. He is asking, many of our partners worldwide applied salary cuts to their employees, and that demotivated them and affected their performance. How can I support them to keep a growth mindset during that period?
Support his customers, Sophia, right?
His employees.
Yes, but many of his customers, they had pay cuts, he said. But how did his company had pay cuts as well? Koufakis' company has pay cuts as well.
No, many of my partners worldwide.
So he wants to support his partners worldwide.
Yes, true.
So I believe my friend Koufakis, Konstantinos, get into a serving mentality, into a serving philosophy. Sometimes ask people, like you ask your spouse, how can you make her smile more, be happy more? Ask them and help them. Maybe you can provide a webinar where you talk about it. Maybe you can buy some books on motivation, on books like a mindset, and you can send it as a present to all your customers. It might cost you 200 euros. Plus mailing another 100 with 300 euros, people will always remember you. So find a way, share this webinar with your customers if you like, but find a way to keep them motivated, to keep them abreast with what's happening, and at the end of the day, to keep them engaged.
Okay, we have two questions regarding books. One from Lefteris Papageorgiou on Facebook. He's asking, name a great book you've read that could advise entrepreneurs in the new era. And Pavlos Pieroudis is also asking, can you give us the title of the book you mentioned earlier?
The title of the book, we're talking about this book, How to Win an Argument by Cicero. That's the one. Because I mentioned two books. Is that the book, Sophia, or something else?
This is the book he was asking. And then a great book you've read that could advise entrepreneurs in the new era.
A great book that I've read that can advise entrepreneurs in the new era or whatever era is the one thing. The one thing. I've always known, and even my late father told me, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I think that's one of the few advices that I haven't followed. I'm always putting my eggs in one basket. And I'm doing what I'm doing today. I love what I'm doing. And inside that book, I read for the first time, according to the author, I think it was Mr. Carnegie, the second richest man on earth, when he spoke at the university and he told the students, put all your eggs in one basket and guard them with your life. That's how you become specialized. That's how you become known. That's how you make a living for yourself. And that's how you succeed in life. And when I went to UCL to speak, I told them, put all your eggs in one basket and guard them with your life. The one thing. It's a great book about setting priorities and understanding that life is too short to accomplish everything, but it's not too short to accomplish the most important things, and you can do that.
Okay, so we are getting close to the end, but I want, with your permission, to ask you two more questions.
Please.
One is coming from Konstantinos Kinchos, and I think he really, really wants the answer because he posted twice.
He's a great friend. I respect him very much. And he's the guy who got me started in Greece. And thank you very much, Konstantino, with my speaking career. I mean, he's the first person who believed in me in Greece.
He is asking, Dear Michael, how about comparing current reality with our previous one? Should we do it, or should we alter our perspective, like starting from scratch? Is it a modified reality or a new one? From which angle do you think we have to see the future?
Excellent question. Konstantinos used to carry with him a lot of kilos. He was very, very fat. He showed me a photo. I couldn't believe it. He was enormous. And now, if you see him, you will be very jealous, Sophia. He's trim thin. If I ask him, whom from the two Kinzios would you prefer? He would say both. I think we should be thankful, and which comes from thankful of our past, and we should be aiming to go into the future irrespective of challenges with a growth mindset. If you ask me to choose which part of my life I like the most, I would tell you I want everything, because this is what made me the man and the professional that I am today. I would never discard anything in my life. The pain, the suffering, the sorrow, losing my dad, whatever, I would want to stay the exact same person and go through the same roller coaster of a ride that I've gone through. Thank you. Excellent question.
Okay, last question. I'm sorry we cannot answer everything. From Sofia Christou, what are the top 3 things that leaders can do to ensure they keep up a good remote culture for their employees?
3 things for leaders to ensure a good remote culture. That's what I said earlier. Listen to your team, touch base with them very often, understand their pains. Each household has a different pain. And if you are compassionate today and you apply empathy across your teams, if they come back and when they come back, they will probably appreciate it and give their best self. So listen to them, apply empathy, and stand next to them.
Great. I think we are reaching the end of this emission. I would suggest to everybody who is still posting questions, I will send them to Michael and he will answer.
Sophia, I would like to say a very big thank you, first and foremost, to everyone who was present on Facebook Live, here on Zoom. And I would like to thank you personally for offering me this platform, advice, and help to get this first webinar up after the first attempt a few days ago failed. So thank you very much, Sophia, and thanks to everyone who was present.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.